Saudi come and welcome to another episode here for the Funky Pod, Mindful Media and Communication. And well, it's been a while since we talked about AI, so hey, it's about that time again. Let's talk about AI again, artificial intelligence. And as soon as I say AI, my cats go crazy. You girls okay? Okay. Why do they go crazy? Probably because they've seen what Google's AI, Gemini, has been up to as of late. You've probably seen it if you're into all things AI. If not, just a very quick recap. Over the past few days, people tried out the new Gemini picture generation that comes with Google Gemini, right? So when you're in Google Gemini, you can just say, hey, create a picture of, and then people tried this and said, like, create pictures of the founding fathers or something like this, and then Google would spit out lots of very diverse pictures, like with female potential founding fathers and people of color and different ethnicities and so on. So just being very diverse, which, of course, wasn't the case back then, for example, right? And then things emerged, like if you ask it to create some Vikings, it would also create like people of color, male, female, whatnot. So just forced diversity, so to speak. So that was just why Google's Gemini has been in the news. And I thought, well, it's interesting to just think a little bit about it from like a communications point of view. Why is it happening and what does it mean? All right. So like I said, the go-to example now over the past few days was like the founding fathers thing. And then Gemini would like make it very diverse, even though, of course, back then it wasn't that diverse. So, and since I just actually had a class on diversity, and we're having a class that's titled Media and Social Diversity at our uni, for example, I thought it just fits very well into the theme right now, because we just talked about it at uni. Okay, so I think it's a good time, at least for us here, to talk about like wokeness, PC, and AI, and why is it happening and where might it go? Okay, so if you talk about the case of the woke AI, right? Like, is Gemini and are other AI platforms woke? And interestingly enough, I did a similar test like 6 months ago or so, maybe, with GPT-4, so ChatGPT, in the picture generation via DALL-E and Midjourney. And I did the same thing. I said, please create what did I say? Picture of the average German, because I'm from Germany, and like the average Thai person, because I'm in Thailand, right? And while Midjourney looked like more realistic to me, but that's of course like maybe biased, not too objective, but DALL-E actually also made a point of giving me male, female, and non-descriptive people. Is it the right way to say it? Which you might consider non-binary, whatever it might be. So like, you try to be very diverse, while Midjourney would give me only men, for example, like for both prompts, like differently looking, but only male. And DALL-E gave me a very diverse result. So just as an FYI. But now Gemini taking the diversity wokeness to a different level, of course. Like, so is Gemini too woke now is the question, and other AI, could they be too woke? Could wokeness be a problem, right? And the thing here is, of course, is hard to say, because now, is it like some sort of algorithmic bias that we see here? So the training data on which Gemini, for example, is trained, or like the decisions that Gemini is making, what are they based on? Are they based on the training data, or are they based on actual like prompts, like, for lack of a better term, like hardwired, and saying like be diverse, no matter what happens, be diverse. Always create like 4 diverse pictures, for example, right? Difficult, and both ways I think have issues. So there are issues attached to it. Like, I mean, obviously our world, past, present, future, will have biases, right? We can't prevent it. And of course, the biases that we have and had influence current training data, of course, like current texts that are out there, texts being any kind of content, right? Videos, text, written content, pictures, whatever. They all have biases. And this influences the training data, of course. And the way AI understands what we want, what we think is right and wrong and whatnot. On the other hand, then the people that are training the AI, that are giving the instructions, like back in the day, I would have said like server side. So people at Google, at OpenAI, that are in charge of the training, they of course also steer the training, right? And now if there's like a more woke mindset there, and I'm not hating on it just now, later I might, this might then also lead to like how AI understands the data it's presented with, right? It's a bit of like a two-step flow, if you will, right? So AI, the large language model, presented with data, but then to understand how to weigh the data, it turns to the person, the department, whatever, in charge of training the AI, right? If that makes sense. And well, if you look at we talked about two-step flow before, and that's not exactly two-step flow, but I just wanted to draw show some similarities there. A theory that we could look at would be like representation theory. This focuses usually on how groups based on race, gender, ethnicity, disability, whatever, are portrayed in the media. All right. So in this case, the AI seems to be overrepresenting diversity, and it might even not actually cut the might. I always say might to be on the safe side, but it actually even distorts our understanding of the past if that would hit the mainstream, right? Let's assume we're using AI for an online class for our high school students, for example, and then we're like, hey, AI, create whatever, like a historical representation of, and then it's like super diverse, even though it wasn't diverse, right? So it could distort our understanding of the past. And obviously, inclusivity is incredibly important. I mean, like I said, we are actually having a class on diversity in the media, and we're trying to figure out how to make the media more diverse and inclusive. But in this case, it would be like at the expense of historical accuracy, which of course wouldn't be beneficial for anyone, because you have to see that the past was not diverse, was not inclusive, in order to understand why inclusivity is so important, I think. Now, the question that we can also ask is artificial intelligence, is it like an activist? Is the AI like an activist? Is the AI trying to make life better, the world better? What's the intention? I mean, it's unlikely that AI developers, right, intentionally set out to rewrite history. They didn't say, hey, let's change history. I simply assume. It's more about like the social construct of technology. We call it SCOT, okay, social construct of technology. That theory suggests that our values, social norms, current focus on diversity can unintentionally become embedded into tech that we create. Okay, so while, like I said, we are aware that in the past we didn't have inclusivity, we didn't have diversity, so now we want to have it, and that unintentionally, subconsciously influences the way we create new technology, new algorithms, whatever it might be. Okay, so I don't think that developers are saying let's erase history, because it would be counterproductive to your case actually, because if there's nothing bad in history, then why would we have to focus on something now to change it, right? So I think it's not on purpose, but I think it just happens. It's the SCOT theory, Scott, if you want to, social construct of technology, okay? And there's some sort of tension that comes along with it, because the debate is then between historical accuracy and pushing for more representation in the media. And so now the question is, does the AI, does the AI stumble into the middle of this ongoing issue and maybe even amplify the problem? Because I mean, we had the discussions before with like misrepresentation in the media, in Hollywood movies, for example, and so on. But now we just turn it around and like turn it up to 10, right? To amplify it and like, that's the wrong way now. Like that gets the people more mad maybe about it. Like we just forced inclusivity. And so maybe that's actually then more like 3 steps backwards instead of like a step forward. And if you look at also like another theory, right, like cultivation theory, we had this on the podcast a few times. Like cultivation theory argues that long-term media exposure like shapes our worldview. Okay, so if AI continually shows us like an overly diverse past, how might they change how we think about history and inclusivity? We might not, like I said earlier, we might not even be aware that this is a big deal. Like, why are you talking about it? Like, it's always been like that because we would know better. Now that we know it wasn't always like that, we know why it's important. If you take this away, maybe we lose a sense of importance, so to speak. Pardon me, almost healthy again. Now the question, of course, is what's the solution, right? And obviously there's no easy answer to that. But I think there are some potential areas for progress. So one could be like more transparency from AI developers, I think. Like, let us know, but I know that's difficult, but like, how do the models work? Okay, what data are they trained on? Because this would help us to understand like where biases might creep in. I also understand why they don't want to tell us, because it's like somewhere in the gray area of things, like if you're crawling Reddit and whatnot, for example, and some have access to it, some have not. Some obey the robots.txt, for example, that says no AI bots, some don't. So I understand why they don't tell us how exactly or where exactly they get the data from, but just like maybe how different models value different things would already be interesting. Or just work with us at university. It would also be something like, I mean, we'd be happy to jump in there, I think, to see like, if we can add some of the theories, or if we can see some of the fallacies, for example, that go along with some of the AI algorithms right now. Besides that, I think also that accountability is a big thing that should be emphasized, because like, I mean, who's responsible for like unintended consequences of AI? And even though it's unintended, there's still consequences to it, and so someone needs to be accountable for that. And we gotta have those conversations, especially as we're moving forward and AI is being a part of our lives even more. So I know that they still say we're still like beta mode or whatnot. Yeah, but if you're pushing for it, I mean, Google has an AI plan now or something like that. If you're doing subscribing to Gemini Pro, right, you're on the AI plan. So if you're making this like a business thing, same thing with like ChatGPT Premium, right? You're paying $20 a month. If I pay money for it, if you sell me the product, I expect it to be, or I expect someone being accountable for it. It's like if my computer now breaks down, I'm going to bring it to the shop where I bought it, and I expect them to fix it, right? So accountability is important, I think. And especially now that it's being pushed more and more, and it's like, it's everywhere. I just opened Gmail before I started recording, and it's like, hey, now Gemini is part of Gmail. And yeah, cool, thank you, I guess. But accountability, who's accountable for it? And lastly, I mean, we call the podcast Mindful Media and Communication. So mindful consumption. So that goes out to all the end users. Yeah, don't, and I tell it to my students all the time. They're like, yeah, you're the old guy, shut up. Don't take AI's output as gospel. I mean, it should be a no-brainer, but I just have to say, it's like, just like when I was at uni, right? Don't just listen blindly to the internet. Yeah, okay. Yes, so don't take AI as gospel, okay? Especially when it depicts the past. Yeah, so remain critical and remember AI is a tool. It's not a history textbook, okay? So that's just something we always need to be aware of. Like I talked about this on the podcast 1,000 times, so I'm not going to go into detail again, but media literacy. And media literacy means like all kinds of media, TV, news, but also the internet, and in particular AI right now, okay? So be mindful. Don't just believe everything blindly, but you know that obviously, otherwise you wouldn't be listening to this podcast. All right. I'm curious, of course, to hear, like, what do you think about it? Do you think, well, it's just some, like, or is it an English thing? In Germany, we say, like, it's just some baby illness when you like develop something new, some small illness, and you're gonna get over it. They're gonna figure it out. It's gonna get away, and it's gonna get better. Or do you think it's a problem? And if the problem is like this right now, maybe it's just gonna get bigger and worse, and people just blindly trusting AI. So what's your take on diversity / wokeness when it comes to artificial intelligence? Should AI be pushing for inclusivity, for diversity? Should AI be more unbiased if there's a way to do that? And should it let us decide whether or not we want inclusive or non-inclusive pictures created, for example, videos? Next step, of course, is Sora from OpenAI. So what do we think? Just imagine if now what happened with Gemini is going to happen with Sora, and then it just creates like super inclusive footage of like historical events that weren't true, but then the high school students see, they're like, oh, look, back then our first black president in 18 whatever. Like, what? No. And so what are your thoughts? I'm really curious to hear it. We just started like an AI and communications lab here, so we're really digging deep into that. We have some interviews, but we also do some actually academic research on the topic, so we'll be publishing that too. So stay tuned for that. I'm really curious to hear your takes on all things AI, communication, media, the impact, and so on. Do we trust it? Should we just switch it off before Skynet takes over? And let me know your thoughts. Until then, stay safe, take care, like, share, subscribe, leave a review, and as always, keep being mindful. Until next time, Sawadee Krap.